Might as well call this thing to order. Yeah. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A second.
Any discussion? Anything want to be added? Delay? Different?
I just got a text from my office that Mark is on his way. He was at CP's at Coronado Center.
Okay. If not, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay, we'll go ahead. Calvin, we have to note in the minutes that we approved the minutes as by email, okay?
July meeting notes.
Yeah. All right. This is awkward. I'm not used to talking on a microphone.
Is this being recorded?
What's that?
Is it being recorded?
Yeah, the fact that we did it by email, approved it by you.
No, this meeting today, is it being recorded electronically?
I don't think so.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
There's cameras over there.
Okay, that's right. As far as chair comments, did everybody get to see the charter, the new one that came out? If you didn't, the major change was that, the fact that the committee now shall consist of a minimum of 11 and not more than 13 members of the Property Owners Association in accordance with bylaw 12, Article 12. And with that, I introduced Maureen and Deborah last time, but we sent the board a memo trying to prove you guys, and they would take that up on the 19th and to make you official. You know, but welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing I do want to talk about, besides that, and the chairperson, is the statistics. Did everybody see them that Stacy sent out? Actually, tennis is doing really well, and the RV park and the dog park are doing well. Pickleball is starting to come back since they were banished in April. We're not following social distancing, but I played pickleball on Saturday, and morning at 7:30, it was packed, and I was on the very east end, and everybody there was practicing social distancing like they were supposed to. I couldn't see the west end, so I really don't know, but it appeared that everybody was following what they're supposed to do, so that's good news. But the rest of it is kind of dismal, and I guess we have to expect that. One thing, Stacy, there's no way to track lawn bowling or bocce people when they play?
We don't track when they play because there's no staff out there. All we have are the number of people who have purchased their memberships. Can you guys hear me, or do I need to use a microphone?
I can hear you.
Okay.
There's a microphone there.
Well, I mean, I have one, I just
Oh.
didn't have a stand for it, so I'm gonna have to, be a singer and hold it, which is fine.
Anyway, I was kind of surprised that we don't have a whole bunch of library cards being bought, because I figured a lot of people will be reading books. And something to do.
Do we think it has anything to do with so much digital library reading going
Probably.
on now?
Probably, yeah. My wife does that a lot too. I don't. I read a book. I like the books better. The other thing I wanted to, maybe Stacy, you can explain is, I do not understand this weather impact, lost revenue.
Okay,
I've never understood it.
okay,
The January, February, March says NA, and I can't tell what revenue is lost and what the difference is, and how do I read this?
Okay, so on the weather impact loss revenue, at the bottom of it, it kind of tells you how we average that out. So for January, February, March, NA for the DeSoto Marina is because we're not open. So we can't lose any revenue because we're not open in those 3 months, right? And then this year, we weren't open in April or May either because of COVID. So we reopened the marina in the last of May, 1st of June. And the two figures you see there, $293 and $1,081. The way that we've the way that, we're just trying to quantify a number that's almost impossible to quantify, right? So what we do is we take the same day of the week 1 year previous, we take the day before and the day after, and we average those. Same day 1 week prior, same day 1 week after. Because if it's a Saturday, you're not gonna have the same revenue on a Saturday that you get on a Monday. So we wanna make sure that we're looking at Saturdays all the way across the board. And then we take all three of those numbers and we average it out to figure out what we lost because we were closed on that day because it rained, or we had a thunderstorm or whatever. And we do the same thing at pickleball, and we do the same thing at the tennis center. So if it rained on a Tuesday at the tennis center, we're gonna lose more revenue on a Tuesday than on a Saturday, because we have league play on Tuesday mornings, and it impacts our revenue more than a Saturday morning play does. So this lost revenue is just a way for us to kind of quantify and be able to look and see, okay, if revenues are up or if revenues are down, did we have a lot of rain in that month? Were we closed for other reasons? And that's kind of what that's how this weather impact came about.
I understand that, I just don't understand how you get the numbers. What's in the white versus the black? I mean, they add up, but then you don't add them up on the right side. You got NA for some, and you got for the first 3 months, and then you got numbers for the next 4.
Yeah, so they should be totaled all the way across the bottom, and it just looks like January, February, March isn't totaling down.
Oh, okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering, okay. Yeah, because if I add up the 3 numbers, it turns out to be $5,805.26.
Yeah, so you're just missing the January, February, and March totals, and we can get that corrected.
So that lower line, the total,
Or the totals
Be
for
what you're
recreation.
that's
Yeah.
what you're losing. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
I have a question for that. Jim, how do you distinguish between weather-related lowered income and COVID-19 lowered income?
So in our weather impact, we're not. So what we're doing in this is just what the weather impact was. And there hasn't really been a COVID impact at tennis. And even the marina in terms of, because tennis visits are up, tennis revenue is up, tennis play is up, all through COVID. It's the one kind of area other than the dog park and the RV park that are actually, the numbers are ahead of last year. And you can see that on the statistics report. But in terms of pickleball and the marina, there's no distinction between what's a COVID reduction and what's a loss because of weather. The only thing you're gonna see on this weather impact is we're gonna show you what a typical day would have looked like over the last 12 months at pickleball or at the marina, not under COVID conditions.
Yeah, I think because we can play pickleball even though we're somewhat hampered by COVID, but we can still play, so.
So some people may stay home because they're still afraid those measures aren't enough.
Yeah, and that would be the same thing with tennis or anything else, but yeah, so they would stay home on their own, but anyway,
Right?
okay.
Jim, Barry,
Oh,
We need
All right,
to,
Mike.
we need
Speak
to
up.
approve the past minutes.
can you speak in the microphone?
We need to approve the past minutes.
we did that.
We did that.
No,
Right.
you approved
the agenda, you didn't approve the minutes.
You approved the agenda, but not the minutes.
The minutes were approved via email, and they've already been sent on, remember?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I told Mark earlier. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. Yeah. John, you got any board comments?
No, other than I did read the charter in our work session. And it will be approved at the next board meeting in June. So,
Okay.
and also the 2 new board members.
Just for my information, do you want us to go around the room so you know whose name is named?
Sure,
Would that help?
sure.
Of course, you know I'm Jim Betts, I've talked to you already.
Hi, I'm Tammy McCullough.
God likes them.
Okay.
Debbie?
I'm Deb Fuller.
Did you say full? Full.
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
I'm Mary McNamara.
Serena Gonzalez. Maureen Morgan.
Calvin Duty,
Mark Quinton,
I think you know most everything
I was gonna
else.
say, I was gonna use another name, but I won't do that. I'm Stacy.
And that's Terry Wiley sitting over there.
Hi.
Okay. Stacy, you want to talk about staff comments?
Yeah, so you guys have a written report, a couple things I want to pull out, and a couple things that Jim asked me to cover at the meeting today. So first of all, you have, again, the written report. The other thing that I've included in your written report were the survey results of how the members of the Recreation Committee utilize the recreation amenities in Hot Springs Village. So I thought it would be a good exercise for you guys to see how many of you use a certain amenity or which amenities maybe we need to get out and do some site visits on because we might not utilize them as much. The other thing that Jim asked me to talk about is archery. So I want to give kind of a brief update on that. Jason Temple and Norman Meredith and I went out and looked at that Deposito Paseo property last week. And I have an email here from Clark McWilliam from Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. That property is an old capped landfill. So there are certain things that we can do there and certain things that we cannot. That is a clay capped landfill, and within the cells themselves of the landfill, we can't do any disturbing of the surface material at all. That includes, digging down for any reason whatsoever. Now, we can add to that property all we want in terms of topsoil. We could even lay water and sewer lines on top of the ground and cover them up. We just can't dig down into that property at all to put in parking or lighting or plumbing or sewer or any of that. Everything has to be laid on top and then covered. Makes everything out there a bit more expensive depending on what we choose to do or propose to do with the development of that property. The other thing that he said, bike trail. So we were looking at that if we were going to do some sort of bike trail. It's got some good topography in that area. And his email actually says archery range good, bike trail bad. Bike trail cuts into the land, and that would need to be something that we would build up a surface for if we were to do a bike trail, but it felt like an archery range would fit there. So our next steps, Jason Temple is pulling the old aerial photographs from the landfill. We need to see which way the cells go. So in some cases out there, you can see the ones, when you pull into that piece of property off of the subdivision, the property to the left, you can see those cells, right? There's property up to the right that we were looking at in terms of that archery range. You can't tell if that's a cell for the landfill or if that was the road that took you around the perimeter of the landfill. If it's the road, then we're able to knock out those trees, at least in the lanes themselves, and then leave a buffer at the end, kind of as that safety zone. We're waiting on Jason to pull those aerial photographs so that we can see what that is. In the meantime, Norman and I took a look at the road behind Deposito Paseo, and that's Equestre. So when we leave the property here at Woodlands Auditorium and you go out towards Grove Park and you take Equestre, it turns into a dirt road. And as you go up that dirt road, the property to the left of that dirt road is outside of Hot Springs Village's perimeter. That's private property. The property to the right, there are only 3 lots as you get up towards that Deposito property. And then there's a good chunk of common. And then there is a really easy slope that could be a access road into that property without having to go through the neighborhood. The other thing is the road that's up on the ridge. So when you're down inside that property, and we've looked at it on a map before, but when you're looking at that piece of property and you're looking back up to the left, which is going to be to the, west, what is that, north? So when you're looking back up to the north, there's a ridge line up there, and we were afraid, everybody wants a new amenity, but nobody, NIMBY, not in my backyard. We wanted to make sure that whatever we developed didn't impact the view that someone else had from that ridge line. What we found is that ridge line all the way up to the street is common property. There are no lots on that side of the road. So whatever we do in the development of that, and there is only one lot that would really be impacted when you come off of that neighborhood road. It basically backs up and the entire view of that lot would be impacted there if you were to access from that area and turn to the right for a parking lot for an archery range. What's nice is, or however you want to look at it, that piece of property is currently owned by the POA. It was a lot that was returned to the POA. It also has water and sewer access to that lot that's already in place. So you could take that lot. There's no lot on the right-hand side of that lot. It's a piece of common property. There's no lot on the left-hand side of that lot. It's common property. To the front of that lot is a street, and to the back of that lot is the property. We can actually develop a bathroom there and already have your water and sewer availability without having to go to the added expense to putting a bathroom right there, actually on that 30+ acres. So we're kind of moving forward with that in terms of what can we do, what we can't do. If we were to put a bathroom in there, turning that lot, or at least investigating taking that lot and making it a piece of that common property, what kind of impact, what do we need to do that? So kind of moving forward with that, waiting for those aerials. And then once I get that aerial, Mark and I are going to sit down and kind of look at which way you're looking to lay out that archery range. And then best spots once we know where those actual cells are from the landfill. That it's capped about, I think I want to say it's like 18 to 24 inches of a clay cap that's on the landfill. But then above that, we've only got in some places, the minimum is like 2 inches on top of that clay cap. And that's what we have to be careful of whatever we're doing, is we don't impact into that clay cap. Okay, so that's archery. The other thing that Jim asked me to talk about were some updates.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You know, the Arkansas Archery Association was here Saturday. What was going on here? I couldn't find anywhere where it was advertised.
That was the Bow Hunters
Yeah.
Association. So those who pulled permits to do the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission bow hunting in Hot Springs Village, that was their, I hate to call it a tryout, but they had qualifier. They had to qualify with shooting skills in order to get their permit to hunt out here this fall.
I didn't know that's where they did it. They've always done it there?
They've always done it here in the parking lot over here at Ponce.
Okay,
So that if they miss, it goes into the woods.
yeah. Well,
And
they were
that
all
was,
done when I got here, but I didn't see any of them shoot, but
Yeah, I came by Saturday morning and they were parked all the way over to Grove Park and the parking lot over by Grove
Oh, yeah.
Park. And
370.
every parking spot was taken.
when I went by, they were all ganged up, and I didn't know if they were social distancing or not.
There was not much of that.
You were there?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jim asked me to pull the outdoor pool numbers, attendance numbers for this year, so I wanted to give you guys a kind of a brief update on that. Outdoor pool this year, we've had 2,411 member visits, 146 family card holder visits, and 136 guest visits. Now remember that guests are not allowed at the outdoor pool right now unless they are accompanied by a member. So I just want to remind you guys on that. And then the other thing, Jim asked me the fitness center attendance numbers, kind of where we've been. So we divide those into daily visits, and we also divide those and then classify those out as insurance visits. And those numbers are not combined, so those numbers are separate from each other. So we opened on May 7th, the fitness center after COVID. In May, our daily visits were 325, and we had an additional 552 insurance visits. In June, daily visits went from 325 to 685, and insurance visits went from 552 to 1,275. In July, daily visits went from 685 in June to 1,049, and insurance visits went from 1,275 to 2,224. Now, perspective-wise, before COVID, in a general week, we would have somewhere close to 12, 5,000 member visits in a week, including insurance. So we would average about 5,000 a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'd have anywhere from 500 to 625 guests a day every week before COVID. So, but what I will say is it's encouraging to see the numbers and see that in some cases they're doubling, or at least, getting close to doubling each month as we've been operating. So, and in the first 8 days of August, we've already had 552 insurance visits and 241 daily visits.
Question on that, please, Stacy? How's the traffic flow? Are people having to wait? Are they being turned away any, or?
We've never hit maximums.
Fabulous.
We have never turned anyone away.
That's good to
And
know.
starting today, we took out the maximums and we took out the workout blocks. So you can show up at any time to work out. What we've put out there, what's coming out in today's COVID update, is that if we find that we're not able to social distance, or we're meeting those maximums, or we've got too many people in the gym and they can't keep that physical distance, then we'll put those workout blocks back in. But right now, we feel like we're at a place where people can show up at any time, work out for the time they want to work out. Less than 1% of COVID positive cases in the state of Arkansas, in fact, it's less than 0.5%, have come into contact because of a gym. And so we feel like because gyms are still so highly regulated in terms of 12 feet of social distance, masks required, all of that, we're going to take out the workout blocks and we're going to kind of evaluate. It's a little scary. The governor's press conference today, there were 93 combined new cases in Saline and Garland County. I think Garland was at 50 and Saline was at 43. So, how many of those are within Hot Springs Village, we don't know. But it is something, we want to be very careful of. Our gym population tends to be the ones who have those highest risk for complications from COVID. But we do feel in looking at our numbers and looking by hour of when people are checking in, we feel like that we can drop the workout groups, we can drop those maximums and evaluate on a day-to-day basis.
Follow-up question, if I might, please? I'm the gym rat who hasn't had the courage to go over there yet and probably might now. Are the walking tracks still restricted?
So one lane of the walking track was reopened back in June.
Okay, thank you very much.
What about the classes?
So classes have been taking place over at the DeSoto Multipurpose Hall. And Fee and Deb and Amy have also been evaluating moving some of those classes over to Coronado Community Center. The problem with Coronado Community Center is when classes require, not merchandise, I can't think of things today, equipment. When the fitness center requires specific equipment, there is nowhere at Coronado Center to store that equipment in any way in which we can guarantee that once we clean it, it stays clean before we need to use it again. So there's no closed-in spaces to store the equipment there, especially the spin bikes. We've been using the multipurpose hall because it's closed under current COVID conditions, because it's a bounce house and a kid's birthday party area, no way to social distance, right, or enforce social distancing. The only problem is when people work out for their facility or when they work out for their classes, they want to go walk the track when they're done, or they want to go, lap swim or go sit in the hot tub. And because of the distance between the multipurpose hall and the gym, there are a lot of people who have told us we're not going to classes. Calvin also made a good point. There's a lot of people who just aren't coming back until COVID is done. And they do have high-risk health conditions. They are very concerned. Indoor classes scare them to death. And as well they should in some cases, because that could certainly be the result, and we don't want that. So we're trying to do, for those who have requested classes, we're trying to put them in place. Those classes have to be at the same 12-foot distance as the gym. So when you're in the Coronado Center and you're in the main auditorium for a class, you have to maintain that 12 feet of distance because you're moving and sweating and you don't have a mask on when you're actively exercising. So all of those are challenges for classes. We've had anywhere from 3 to 8 typical attendance at the multipurpose hall. Maximum is 12. Average attendance is 5. There are some classes that are being held still in the porte cochere here, and they'll have an average of anywhere from 12 to 14 in those classes. The water classes have maxed out since we started them in July. And so we just started last week. We've now added water classes 5 days a week. So we're now having shallow water aerobics Monday through Friday. The arthritis class is still on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we added turtles last week on Saturday.
Do you, can you give us you changed the hours too, right?
Yeah, so our recommendation, so at the fitness center, we've been really evaluating their costs versus when people are coming in to use the facility. The facility has been open under COVID Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And what we're finding is we're getting 1 and maybe 2 people who come in the building after 4 o'clock. So there was a workout block from 4 to 5:30. We're about $90,000 in revenue in terms of the fitness center under current COVID conditions, but our expenses are only down $54,000. That's because it takes the same number of staff members to be open when there's 600 people in the building as when there's 60 people in the building. So one of our recommendations today was to reduce the hours at the fitness center Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 3:30. And then on Saturday, still be open 8 to 5. So we still have that all day Saturday and the longer into the evening hours on Saturdays. We also made recommendations at the outdoor pool. So we've been tracking the numbers at the outdoor pool. And most people like to sleep in, have lunch, and then come to the pool. So we've been opening at 11 and the first guest isn't getting there until almost 1 o'clock. So we've got 3 staff members who are just sitting with no one at the pool. So Sunday through Wednesday, we're moving pool hours from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're still keeping the 12 to 6 p.m.
I have a question on the Coronado Fitness Center. So with those hours, what is your percentage of working professionals that live in the village that take advantage of the Coronado Fitness Center?
Yeah, so even before COVID, our working, those who still work a full-time job, they don't use the Coronado Community Center. That's not our 80% core users of the fitness center. We, over the years, we've stayed open until 8 or 9 o'clock. We had Saturday hours and Sunday hours. That's not how in fact, I could probably close the fitness center on weekends. A week ago Saturday, I had 8 people the entire day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So but we didn't want to implement a change in hours and getting rid of Saturdays all at the same time.
Sure.
And right now we're just having to go by numbers. Who's coming in, who's paying, how many staff members am I paying for that?
Sure.
And we're really trying to watch those expenses, and labor is our largest expense at the fitness center. So when we come out of COVID next year at some point, we can really look to try to attract those working people. One of the recommendations I think that we're looking at is to have some, and I think Serena's the one who actually made the recommendations, some classes that involve kids and their parents working out together. When I was younger and my kids were really little, they had those mommy and me classes for kids 6 and under where you could do things together. And so those are things that we're certainly going to look at, and we had a great relationship with the Boys and Girls Club and offered our fitness classes there as part of a grant program. So trying to attract the younger population. What we found though is the price of the fitness center, because of the size and how much we have at the fitness center, is not the competition to a 10 Fitness or a Planet Fitness where you can join for $10. So if you're still working full time and you're in Hot Springs or Benton and Bryant, you're working out before you're coming home. So you're either working out first thing in the morning or you're working out right when you get off work. You're not driving home, putting your kids to bed, or having supper and then trying to come back to the fitness center. So Deborah, for our population, really, we're attracting that retired.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Probably winter. All right. Committee comments. Tammy, let's start with you. Any comments?
The only change is the 50th celebration is including what's left of Arts in the Village, which is gonna be just a couple of artists, demoing at the park, at Grove Park, as of right now. So I still have to find them. People are a little reluctant right now.
People are worried.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. I mean, you know, it's not worth taking a chance, so. And I looked at, and it says right now, the numbers of cases by Hot Springs Village is 44, and number of community cases, which is cumulative, is 76.
Is that a village number or a zip code number?
Hot Springs Village,
Is that on the ACI.net?
yeah.
Yeah,
And that
it's-
says
it's a
August
zip code.
That's the zip code,
It is
isn't
a
it?
zip code. But
And
that
then
number went
that's
from
just-
39 on July 27th to
Yes.
whatever number she's got today.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's updated August 7th.
Yeah.
So, I don't blame people for being a little concerned.
Anything else? Anything else, Tammy?
Oh, no, sorry.
Don?
One thing, the fishing derby has been canceled, officially canceled, so, kids fishing derby will not have this year.
That's too bad.
I was wondering if the team tournament is scheduled for Sunday after what's that, the 27th?
It is, so we still have that on the calendar, we've been working on.
That's okay. I don't think we're looking to cancel that, but I was wondering if we could possibly move it from Sunday to Saturday now that the kids derby has been canceled.
The kids derby's been canceled, but the Balboa is gonna be used for the family fun day and the beach party that night.
Yep.
So the boat ramp's gonna be closed.
I just wanted to understand that. I think that's all.
Okay. Deborah, you got anything you gonna say?
No, thank you. Taking it all in.
Mary?
Well, the heat has kept a lot of people away from bocce, lawn bowling, and the dog park. However, we're seeing a uptick in attendance early in the morning. There's quite a group that gets together, and then later on in the evening. So at least people are still coming. And I don't really know about the bocce and the lawn bowling as far as their attendance. They keep that.
Yeah.
So
What was it you said there was an uptick in?
the dog park visitors early in the morning, you know, like 7:30, and then later on in the evening after dinner, maybe 6:30. So it is being used, it's just during the heat of the day, no one wants to be there.
Okay.
That's it.
Serena? Nothing? Maria, you got anything?
No, sir.
Calvin?
Yes, the efforts for kayaking have been proceeding. We had a dry run, if you will, on a kayak run down the Washita from Reynolds Dam down to Rockport. The three-man crew plus myself went. This is Gil Standridge and Larry Thomas and Michael Bianca. And we took that run just to make sure it was doable for the participants coming up on the 26th. We'll be going through the classroom effort on the 12th, hour-and-a-half class.
I heard that was sold out, huh?
It was sold out pretty quickly after it was open, so
Yeah.
there is a demand for this
That's great.
activity. And the 19th will be a on-the-water type classroom where they'll get to actually practice the skills that they'll need for
Is that sold out? I haven't heard that.
yeah, it's all the same thing. It's
Oh,
one,
okay. Oh, it's all the same people?
yeah,
Okay.
10 participants for
Yeah.
each Wednesday, 3 in a row. That's about it. There's no progress on kayak launches that I know of. I'm sure there's things going on, but I haven't heard anything momentous going on. And I proposed the challenge for the shortest of the Lake DeSoto kayak trails, and I haven't gotten any feedback on that yet.
And so on that, Buzz Carpenter is the Trails Committee representative who is leading that, and he and I have a meeting tomorrow for your ideas and everything for that. And
Kayak
so,
trails.
yeah, so he and I are gonna meet tomorrow, because that's a project of the Trails Committee. So he and I are gonna meet tomorrow, and then I think what I'm gonna have him do, Calvin, is bring the three of us together. But Buzz has been in Michigan on vacation for the last 6 weeks, so he just came back, and I didn't wanna just kind of dump it in his lap without having a conversation. So I think we have a meeting tomorrow morning at like 10. So I'm gonna talk to him about it. I have all of your information. And then we'll bring all of us together and see if we can get that ready for a fall implementation.
Great.
Calvin, there was you sent me an email probably a couple of months ago about a demonstration of kayak launch down at Lake Hamilton. Did that ever happen?
They have not contacted me that they've got the demo in that they said they were going to in a couple of weeks. And it's, I don't know, been 6 weeks?
Been quite a while, yeah, okay. Serena, I missed one statement here. Croquet update. We ever get a date for a demonstration on that?
No, I heard from the gentleman who was supposed to be working on
I'm sorry.
that. And I actually went ahead and built a racket that will sit on top of the court. But I don't think they've made any progress in gathering. We were supposed to do a demonstration, not on the lawn bowling court. They were just supposed to do a demonstration in the green area. As soon as it cools off a little bit, we're having the heat waves, early September, and try to put together a club. And if there's sufficient interest in the club, then we can do tournaments on the lawn bowling courts. And I built a sample wicket that would just sit on top and not create any damage, but we just have the one to evaluate. So, waiting for cooler weather.
Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting, because talking to people around the village, they've all heard about archery, but not all of them, but a lot of them have, and croquet. They're kind of interested in it, see if it's going to get going.
Yeah, we've had people sign up and express interest.
I'm sorry, what?
I said we've had people sign up and express interest. And again, I'm just liaisoning
Yeah.
to these people trying to set up a committee, and they've been a bit delayed with some of their efforts. So hoping we can support them a little and get it going.
I guess my only point was there seems to be a fair amount of interest in it, and it's pretty economical, to do, so.
So I was gonna say, in your director's report as well, Gil has been working with Darren, who was the property owner who first brought forth the croquet, and the lawn bowling group to get the two together so that they can do a demonstration now for how we might be able to utilize the lawn bowling green. And then waiting for cooler weather to have a public input interest meeting when it's not 105 degrees.
But he doesn't have any wickets.
Yeah.
All right, Mark?
Yeah, I, as a liaison for the RV park, so I want to learn, I know Stacy used it, and I want to learn a little bit more about it. So it was a thread on Nextdoor, somebody was complaining that when they went through the process, they were told they had to go to the Coronado Center to register, and the guy that they went to see there was rude, and it kind of meandered on a little bit, but I wanted to see where they had been told to go to the Coronado Center. So I went through every venue that I could find, every website that had anything to do with signing up for it, and I found nothing that said to go to the Coronado Center. So I private messaged that person and said, please help me, because I might be somebody that might be able to get to the bottom of it so it doesn't happen to somebody else. Dead silence. I didn't hear anything back. So I did a lot of research, probably, I'm assuming, for somebody that said her daughter and they went to the Coronado Center by mistake. Everything I saw says, call, the Coronado Center to make your reservations. So, but I did learn a lot about, doing that trip, what a gem that whole deal is with the RV park, because they have discovery packages for that, like they do everything else, where, talk about social distancing, you have your own site, you can use the whole beach, you can use, you can even pay extra and play golf, you can do everything that the village has to offer from your RV, so it's just really, really nice down there. The drawback to me is that I haven't seen too many parks that don't have the amenities of a shower and a bathroom, but I guess that's somewhere in a budget down the road somewhere. But very nice facility. The folks that man it couldn't be sweeter. I was so glad after 45 minutes that somebody drove in to take an RV spot so I could actually leave, because they're very, very nice and very, really nice people. But if anybody, that has an RV that's looking for an escape, it's just a great place. I mean, it's very nice, very clean, very
It's
well.
real nice now, yeah, really good job. Calvin, I don't know if you know or not, but there's a kayak launch in that RV park, It's got a sign, I've seen it.
There's a nice little concrete pad that goes
Yeah.
out there, and you just put your
They
kayak.
go down to Coronado Lake.
I saw the sign when there was a flood coming down there. But I didn't see any more than that.
It's not good in the flood.
Anyway, okay, where are we at? Oh, I will say I want to talk a minute about pickleball, because I think I told Stacy, but we've been getting a lot of new players, or I shouldn't, maybe a lot, but quite a few anyway. And they've got 2 classes now for beginners, one on Monday night and one on Friday morning. And last week, Greg, the president there, he started a Wednesday night thing where anybody can show up, and they encourage the beginners to have at least 2 classes so they know how to play the game, and then come Wednesday night, and when they get there, they sign them up for a court so they can meet other people, because a lot of them don't know anybody, and so it's like getting them together with another couple, or let's get it 4 or 5 people so they can switch. But anyway, I wasn't there last Wednesday because I had a commitment, but I'm going to go this Wednesday to see how many people show up. But I think it's a good thing that what we're doing, trying to get the new people introduced to other pickleball players, and then they can help them with their pickleball game. So I don't know how good it's working right now, but I'll find out hopefully Wednesday.
Question, how is that advertised, if it is at all? Because I think I read everything, and I don't know that I've ever seen anything.
To tell you the truth, it came out as as an email from everybody that's on the
Current club member?
pickleball board,
Okay.
And so it's not very well advertised. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, because one thing I'm going to talk about is internal marketing,
Sure.
the subcommittee, and we've been talking about, and that's part of the problem, because a lot of people don't know what's going on, and they try to put everything into the digest, and it gets so voluminous that I can't hardly read it all, so, but somehow we got to do a little better on internal marketing.
Well, and some of that, for cross purposes, for me, would be helpful to know as a volunteer at the Chamber of Commerce Visitors Center, what visitors can do or can't
Absolutely.
do, or if there'd be any opportunity for them, because there's been, some have really wanted to use the outdoor pool that were just visitors and could not, so,
Yeah.
it'd just be helpful to know everything that's available to everybody.
Well, last week, there was a new guy that came in the Chamber of Commerce and gave a talk.
John Patrick O'Brien,
Yeah,
born on St. Patrick's Day.
yeah.
Maureen Murphy Morgan thinks he's a good guy.
He's very dynamic, because he
Yeah.
really had a lot of passion, and wanted to work with the village and all that. So that was a great presentation he had, unbelievable. What he wants to do and how he wants to work with the village, for advertising and making maps and having people come in and visit them and all that. So I thought it was great. Okay,
Jim, question on the pickleball court repairs. Last I had heard, reported here, was that we had a visitor and he had a preliminary recommendation of sealing the joints. Haven't heard if there's a formal report on that, or the other visitor that was coming that was sponsored by the contractor. whether they can.
We've had the 2 visitors, one from Florida, one from a contractor out of Little Rock. I don't know, Stacy, if you've seen
And
them
so
yet or
you
not.
probably know more than I do on this.
I called Charlie Brown, when was it, last Wednesday, I think, or Thursday. He had one report, he didn't say which one, and he was expecting the other one on Friday. And as soon as he got them both, he was gonna send them to me, and if he got your approval. And so far I haven't got them yet, so I assume he hasn't got the second one.
No, as soon as I get them, I'll,
Yeah, so they should be coming, and hopefully. But yeah, both of the guys, I was there for the second one, I wasn't there for the first one, but both of them recommend caulking the joints so the water doesn't go down into the construction joints and get underneath the slab and then bring the sun to bring the vapor up again, so. Anyway, I'm kind of waiting for them, see what's gonna happen. Old business, I guess, starts?
yeah, so I'm gonna let Terry do the update, the Stars and Stripes recap, because he was at all the events.
Okay.
You probably don't need it, but
No,
don't blow
I'm
it
good.
for us.
Starting Stripes, we were really affected by the weather a lot. We had a rock porch that we had to move over here in the porte cochere due to the rain. We still had about 65 folks that, everybody who showed up stayed at least, so we just did move it over here on the porte cochere. The day before that, we had a movie, hard rains and wind gusts, so we actually put the movie screen in the porte cochere and showed that for the people who chose to stay.
And the porte cochere in a hard rain and a hard wind becomes what?
That's what you call a wind tunnel.
Did you get a lot of people?
Not really for the movie. I know that the kayak float had a lot of people, and the things that we have, the kayak float that we have this week is sold out with 30 people in that. And speaking of movies, we had a movie on Friday that had 17 cars come to that. So Starting Stripes again, it was abbreviated as it can get, but we pulled it off. We did all 3 days of events.
Rock Porch, August 1st.
Yes, we had a rock porch on August 1st with Lee Street Lyrical. It went great. Everybody's doing a really good job as far as when they go to the park, socially distancing. We have another great one coming up on September 12th with a guy named Bill White. He is he's the DJ for the Grand Ole Opry. He's in the Nashville, or whatever the broadcasting Hall of Fame is, and he has a couple albums out himself, so. Some kind of bigger names. He wrote like 4 or 5 country hit songs and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Good
It's
stuff.
on September,
September the 12th.
what time?
That is a 7 o'clock. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I was on vacation from Stars and Stripes, so.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the next 2. I had Stacy send out the subcommittee minutes to everybody, and that's on the committee. And I really don't want to discuss them, like I said in the email that I sent all the committee members, but I wanted you to have them so you have some idea of the kind of things that we're discussing and talking about. And one of these days, once we get past the budget and the fee, the committee's going to have to vote, so what we come up with. And I thought it'd be good that you had at least could read on your own what kind of things we were discussing, and maybe to help the voting go a little better, So I don't particularly want to talk about them here, but if you have any questions or comments or whatever, or want to know information, just send me an email and we can talk about it. But one thing I do want to give you is a short message of what we've been doing. So far on the fee subcommittee, we've had 3 long meetings. And I mean, these have been 2.5 and more. Most of the time we spend strategizing. With the COVID-19, it's kind of hard what to do with the fees and do you make them higher? Well, we're not getting the members now, so that's not a good idea. Do you want to lower them? well, if all of a sudden we get a vaccine or, or we get to phase 3, that might not be a good idea either, and maybe we just leave them alone, so. We still have that to wrestle with, but anyway, we had a lot of discussion. We also talked about how to get more revenue by getting more members to join the amenities, and talked about incentivizing them and talk about part of the subject I'm hot on is that we need more and better internal marketing. Okay. And we talked about this last year and never really got it going. And Stacy, not to put you on the spot or anything, but in your report, you said you talked to the marketing committee.
Yeah, so I was invited to the marketing subcommittee last Monday, specifically to talk about, they were looking at some events and event planning that coincided with what the recreation department and golf and lakes and 50th anniversary were doing in terms of events. And in that meeting, I got the opportunity to say that one of the identifying issues that we have in the recreation department is a lack of internally marketing to our existing membership, our recreation amenities. And I'm speaking just of recreation, not for golf or for lakes or any of the others. Specifically the fitness center, we talked about what those needs are. And in fact, from the marketing committee, they do a printed advocate in the spring that includes all of the candidate interviews. What they're looking to do now as part of that marketing subcommittee is to dedicate the fall advocate into marketing specifically the amenities of Hot Springs Village to the members. Because remember, the advocate is really the only marketing piece that every single member receives. And so you can send something out on social media, or you can put something out on an e-blast or an email, but you're not guaranteed that or even put it in the paper or on the radio. The advocate is the only thing that was physically mailed to every single member. The fall edition this year is not going to be a printed, but it is going to be a digital version and will go out as a communication to every single member. And so we're starting now backwards from a date of when we're going to drop that, which would be right around the end of October, 1st of November, and starting with the marketing committee to develop language and articles and looking for people who are advocates of the dog park or advocates of the arts or advocates of fitness or whatever it is to help tell the story of why this amenity is so great, right? So telling Hot Springs Village's story to our existing members who might not utilize our amenities as we'd like them to. And so the marketing committee was, those all came out of that, hey, we'd like for you to, internally market us. And they started, well, why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? So they were very, very on board in terms of taking up that challenge. And in fact, we'll be sending somebody from the marketing committee to each of the committee meetings so that they can figure out how their committee can help both the departments and the committees in terms of marketing what we're doing.
So do they have a timetable on this kind of thing? We talked about it last year,
Yeah, so they actually have a timetable for the first piece to come out in March. And then Paul Sage has put together an internal marketing for the fitness center as part of annual renewals. That's in my inbox. And then Ray Lehman actually contacted me last week and invited me to a meeting, which is taking place on Monday, August the 17th.
Yeah.
So they've invited me to attend that meeting to talk more about recreation and recreation events.
Anything we need to help with?
At some point, most definitely.
Question, comment? May I? I don't want Stacy to sell her crew short when it comes to trying to boost our amenities, because I know we've had over the years many open houses, especially at the fitness center, come and see, and all all that. I don't know how successful they've been, but I know we've done that. Have we ever done anything like a recreation fair, sort of akin to the community fair? Or is that something that might draw people in to learn about them, or
Yeah, so we had-
or even a tour or something like that, where there would be candy and prizes and all that other sort of good stuff?
So we had a golf and recreation fair for 3 or 4 years, had it over at the Coronado Community Center, had some vendors who came in and supported outdoor rec and golf and fitness, and so we brought in some vendors as well as our amenities. They weren't hugely popular. So one of the things we thought earlier this year was, or at the later part of last year in that October timeframe, wouldn't it be great? There's lots of cities who are now offering, and I live in Saline County, but my sons go to school in Bryant, and Bryant's offering a new class called Bryant 101. And it's where citizens who live in their community, they go and they spend 2 hours with the police chief and they learn about the police department. And they have to register for it. So it's similar to the Citizens Police Academy, but it's for the whole community. And Terry Caperton and I, and Terry and I have talked about this more than a year ago, implementing something similar to that in Hot Springs Village. Getting to know your community, or spending time with the golf director and the recreation director and tennis, or not, fire and police, you know, each of the major kind of divisions within Hot Springs Village. And we were going to implement that for the fall of 2020. And we were going to start that in March, right, for all of that. And then kind of COVID hit. So and for me, I call it the Citizens Academy. Just because those are some of the ones that I saw really good models online and cities that have implemented. And then I saw a picture, I guess it was in the Saline Courier last week, of Bryant 101. And I thought, you know, it's really something we want to do. And I still think it's something that Jamie, as the member experience officer, and that's a way for us to sell Hot Springs Village to our members, right? Encouraging them to come and spend time. If you have a question about recreation, let's not put it on next door. Let's actually talk to the people in recreation, and they'll answer your questions for you. Because I'm not on next door, so people all the time will go, well, you didn't answer my question. I'm not on next door in your neighborhood. I didn't see your question. But if you come by, or you call me, or you email me, I'm more than happy to answer your question. You know, so giving people a resource like a Citizens Academy, or a Hot Springs Village 101, or whatever it might be, right? I think that's a path forward to internally marketing and hitting them, you know, as often as we can in terms of, you know, really getting involved in their communities.
Mary has a question.
What's that?
Mary has a question.
Oh, there's a-
It's not a question, it's just a comment.
You're so far away.
I know, with the newcomers groups, introducing a lot of these amenities, I'm sure some of the things are talked about, but maybe if we had things in print that they could take home and look at.
Yeah, so Newcomers Coffee has been revamped by the marketing department, and recreation, golf, lakes, food and beverage, fire, and police are all represented either by their directors, or if they're unavailable, someone who goes in their place to talk about golf amenities and recreation. I shot a video with Larry Wilson for recreation, and then we have a golf video as well. And then they get a pack of information. And then for anybody who attends a Newcomers Coffee, we actually give out free passes to our amenities so that they can try them as an introduction to the community and a thank you for coming kind of thing. So marketing has really revamped that Newcomers Coffee to take advantage of that internal marketing. Now here's the only thing, under COVID, you can only get 10 families in there at a time. So they've been somewhat limited in who can attend. But they've sold, not sold out, but every single one of the newcomers for the past 5 or 6 months have all been completely full.
I think Maureen just kind of pulled my thunder here for a minute, but, you know, I've been thinking this for a long time, you know, and last year the same thing. We've done open houses, you know, for a lot of the amenities. I don't know why we don't either, I don't know, say mandate or require every amenity do an open house once a month, once a quarter or something, and give them a free lesson, you know, and then try and get them to sign up, you know, for a year or a month or whatever else. But it seems like that's something we could do, and each of the amenities can do without the marketing group, you know, and it should be very simple. I know Greg Ellen, he would do it every month, you know, I'm sure of it, you know, and maybe every other month, but it seems to me that's something that we can do on our own. We don't have to ask for permission. The only thing that really needs to do is we need to get some literature out, I think, as far as, I'll say pickleball or tennis or whatever the rules, whatever the schedule is, what's it cost, you know, for a month, you know, a year, all that kind of stuff. Have that ready for them, you know, especially for new people, you know, and right now, like I said, we're getting a fair amount of new people coming in here, and it seems like that's something we can start right now. And we have a liaison here for just about every amenity, you know, and we could work with them, you know, to help them figure out, you know, what we can do, you know.
Well, one thought process that I have is your best advocate for an amenity are people that already use it. So if you play pickleball and you utilize, the marketing department utilizes those folks that are already using it to bring their friend, their neighbor, somebody that's going to the fitness center now, maybe grabs Serena and says, it's really working out pretty good. You know, I think it's pretty safe, and, you know, that's where you're gonna get the traction. You know, that's what people listen to. I don't say I have an answer on how to do that, but that's really where your momentum would come from.
Yeah, but I think you can do a lot of it just at open house too, you know. You can get it advertised enough so everybody knows it, you know. But I think we ought to think about that because, you know, the survey we did last year convinced me that a lot of people are not getting the information that they need, you know about some of this stuff, you know. Even the insurance people, a lot of them didn't even know that their insurance offered silver sneakers and stuff like that, you know. They didn't even look at it, you know. We'll go look at it, you know. We need to help some of the people that won't help themselves, I guess.
Couple of things. One of the things we've always had a problem with is misinformation and people like, you know, I love our volunteers, but sometimes they're not up on it. I know there's not a training class for them about what they should say, and it needs to be consistent because there's a lot of not correct or not current information that's given to people when they come. That's a real issue. The other thing is you know, there's the Healthy Move. I know with COVID, they're probably not doing it, but the Healthy Move and the newcomers at the churches, the Methodist Church on the east side and the Bible Church right over by the fitness center. Anyway, and I actually did that. And they take you around and you go to hot springs and you go to different things, but they don't do really anything in the village. And that would be a real big opportunity for somebody, POA or somebody to go and to talk to people, because you've got a lot of women that come, their husbands, or a lot of them are into golf, and they're not sure what they want to do. So that is an opportunity that we're missing. And does Pickleball have information of the Chamber of Commerce, and does the Fitness Center have a brochure up at the Chamber of Commerce?
No fitness center brochure.
I mean, that might be something, or even a card or something to say.
Again, that's part of that marketing committee. I mean, there's nothing that's been developed or any of our amenities on a single page.
When I'm up there as a buyer, it's only one morning a week, but I'm really pleased with the way the Explore the Village website has come along in the past year. And anytime anybody comes in there, I'm telling them now, go look at that website. You're going to find exactly what you want to know about things. We still have our rack cards, but it's really, well, the POA can display anything they want. Base Camp has a rack card, and maybe a couple of other amenities do too. But in order to display up there, if you're not a POA thing, you have to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce. But, I do the best I can to tell people, go to the website because it's all there too.
I think Tammy makes a good point, because if people are like me, I'd rather have something in my hand I'm looking at, instead of going out to go to a website.
Especially for new people, it's,
Yeah,
it might be something to discuss with the chamber director as a cooperative venture. We are a visitor center as well, but we also act as a new resident center too, because they come in there all the time. We just moved here, what's to do, and we tell them that, so.
yeah.
We'd be happy to take more information. Got it.
Well, this presentation he gave, he said that he'd take anything we could give him. So anyway, anything else on that subject? I do want to say that in our subcommittee, I'm sorry, John?
I was just going to say that mentioning the newcomers, I'm very familiar with the one at Mountainside Church. And Mrs. Hadley does a wonderful job. And I am on the Washita Speaker Board, which has been defunct all this year now because of COVID. But I always would take free tickets to one speaker that we would have during the year.
Yeah.
And I know, and to give out to everyone, and I know she would be very appreciative if you followed through on what you were talking about free tickets to do something. Whatever, whether it is to get someone to go to pickleball or free lesson ticket, and they take these. Now we get some people that come in with a free ticket for the speaker series, and I would think that would be a great place to do some for recreation. And she is very careful. I usually get about 4 minutes. She doesn't let someone come in and talk for 30 minutes because they have a lot of things that they do in there. But I'm just saying that this, I think, would be a great place. And if there's one at Village Bible, I think those would be great places because you have a captive audience in there. So, just my opinion.
Well, you also have to have literature to pass out, visuals, because.
You can pass out, you can pass out literature. Usually on the ticket that we give them, we put the literature on it. So it's one thing that they get. And the ticket's about like this.
So you could do something like for the fitness center, a 1-day free pass.
Yes.
Some information on classes or where to go look, or one kayak or one, so there's a lot of things that we could do.
Now, you would want to check with her and whoever does Village Bible that they would allow that, but I have been able to do that in the past.
All right, anything else? I do want to say one more thing about the subcommittee on the fee is that we had come up with several recommendations. I thought we need to go talk to the Finance and Planning Committee. And it's about incentivizing people and then to join in different ways to pay your bill. And we need to make sure that the Finance Committee can handle what we're trying to do. And I think they can, but I've talked to Karina, and within a couple of weeks, we need to get all that together, and she's willing to meet and talk about anything that we have come up with, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy, but we have to have all this information as far as the fee and the budget capital by the first week in September, right?
Yeah, so the information that I found says by the end of August. It doesn't have a specific date. But it also went on to say that they were going to provide business objectives in order for us to build off of. And I haven't seen those yet.
Yeah.
We haven't been issued those. So that date could be, it could be into September, it could be a couple weeks into September. So we're still kind of waiting to hear those definitive dates from the Finance and Planning Committee.
Yeah, okay, 'cause I know in a meeting last week, Diana stated that they wanted a presentation in October and then approve it in November, so, you know, somewhere we're getting close to
Yeah.
having to get this finished, but, anyway, and, I guess that's enough on that. Subcommittee for the fee, capital, talk a little bit about that. That was a very interesting meeting, I learned a lot. You know, wasn't in the capital committee last year, and had no idea what went on. But first two meetings, it took us a long time to get a list of everything that is actually under Stacy's purview, you know, that was in the budget. And it turns out to be a sheet like this. And you can't read it from there, but there's about 60 items on the first side and another 30 on the other side, you know. And we started going through them, and the board wanted to know what we absolutely had to have in 2020, okay, as far as capital expenditures. And so we took hours going through every single one of these things, you know, and some of these were budgeted in 2020, but it's on hold now because the board's got the money frozen. Some of them are in 2021, and some are out multiple years. So the multiple years one were easy. We just kind of said, no, we don't need them in 2021. And then we went through all the others and discussed them, and basically ended up with about 22 items that we think really need to be done in 2021. And now we have the homework here to go out and prioritize them, you know, because right now we don't have a budget, and we're going to prioritize it from 1 to 22. And then if we don't have the money, we'll just have to chop off the bottom ones. But so we've gone through a lot of hours going through each and every item, and I think it's been a lesson for me about all the items that we have on the budget the way it is. And they're all good ones, it's just we don't have the money to do it. Some of it is very critical. It needs to be done now, or we might lose in amenities, you know, for revenue. Some of them are deferred maintenance. And some items are, if we spend a little money, we might be able to get more revenue. So we have all of that on that list. So it's kind of interesting, some of the ideas and things that are on here. So anyway, I just bring that up. We still got some work to do. We're actually going to meet tomorrow, hopefully get a lot of that done. But anyway, that's not all I'm going to say. I don't know if you have any questions on that, but I want to let you know what we're doing anyway. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Enforcement of rules and regulations.
You need to start this?
So this kind of grew out of a conversation between Joni and Jim and myself and some of our staff members. And I reported on it in the director's report, but we wanted to pull it out as new business. Here's the thing. There are rules and regulations all the time at specific amenities, right? You have to wear closed-toe shoes at the gym so you don't drop a weight on your foot, right, for insurance liabilities. You have to wear a swimsuit at the pool. You can't just go in your clothes. You know, so we have various rules and regulations, some more obvious than others. Now we also have COVID directives that are required by the Arkansas Department of Health, and we have members who choose not to necessarily follow those guidelines, be they published rules of the Board of Directors for rules and regulations, or for the published rules that are under the COVID directives. And the question has been, and we're still struggling with that question, is what are the consequences for a member who chooses not to follow the rules and regulations at an amenity? And that's where the question lies. So the declaration provides that members have enjoyment rights to common property. Do they still have those enjoyment rights if they don't follow the rules and regulations of that amenity? Does a member of staff have the ability to ask a member to leave a facility? The suspension of privileges is reserved for the board of directors, and there's procedure and policy that allows for suspension of privileges when a member is not adhering to those rules and regulations. But that process is anywhere from 30 to 45 days long. And a suspension of privileges can only be done at a board meeting, and you can only suspend their privileges for 30 days, or they have to go back before the board in order to have those privileges suspended. And it could be something as simple as, just absolutely refusing to adhere to the mask policy when they have none of the other underlying health issues that allow you to have a mask off. It could be someone who just absolutely refuses to put their beer away in an amenity that doesn't allow alcohol use, right? It could be as serious as someone who's on the beach and they're cussing and profane language. And if that's a member and they have enjoyment rights for common property, what is the staff's ability to enforce those rules? The police department can only become involved if the infraction violates law, not policy, not procedures, not direct, there's so many things that they're hindered in being able to do. And so as Joni and Jim and I were discussing this, and new rules and regulations were approved by the board of directors at their last regular meeting in July, I've posed that question to the executive staff at the POA administration building. We've talked about it back and forth. It also has to do with what happens if you're using the lawn bowling green and you're not playing lawn bowling. What happens if you're playing baseball on it? What happens? We've never been able to really enforce those rules and regulations. Now, most people, if I come up to Mark and I say, hey, Mark, you're not wearing socks, and there's a rule right there on the wall that says for hygiene, you need to be wearing socks. And I don't know if you're wearing socks, but you get me, right? And Mark goes, oh, you know what? I forgot my socks. Let me go grab them right quick. We love Mark, right? But let's say Terry back here. Terry forgets his socks. I'm not wearing socks. I'm not going to get them, and there's nothing you can do to me. And he goes about his business. So what we're trying to do is provide staff, especially frontline staff who are getting hit with this all the time. And I know the examples I'm giving are kind of facetious in nature, but sometimes they're really serious. We had a guy who pulled the whole thing out at the beach. I can use any words I want. There's nothing that says, what's a curse word and what's not a curse word and and just refused. And he was a member. So, what can our staff do in order to enforce those rules and regulations? And so I guess what I'm looking for and why Jim and I kind of put this under new business is to have that discussion.
I can just say, you probably know this, that I feel your pain, because as a former volunteer at the fitness center, and on the second shift when I would actually be there wouldn't be staff people other than the person at the counter to take the money, and somebody would come in the wrong kind of shoes, or we have had regulations against jeans with the studs on them and belts and stuff like that. It's very challenging to go up to somebody and say, we really need you not to behave that way, or you need to have the proper shoes on. And it's a lot of times we just didn't bother to do it, or it'd say, well, we'll just let him go this time, and it's difficult. It's very, very difficult, especially when you're just a civilian. Very difficult.
The way it started with me was the mask, and I wasn't violating it, but I've got noticed that some people were, and I know Joni did, and so we started talking about it. And the governor says, well, the police can fine $100 up to $500. I said, we don't really want to do that. We don't want to call the police, Isn't there something that can be done if somebody just refuses? let's say he's playing pickleball. I said, why can't we just say you can't play for 2 weeks, okay? You can't reserve a court, we want you on the court, okay?
Does signage help in that?
What's that?
Does signage, Calvin's saying no, it doesn't. A sign that says you must wear a mask, you must do this, you must do that is not gonna help any, is that
Well,
correct?
actually, they just put a placard up on every bench right now, okay? And that says what the rules are. They just put them up, I think, in the last week, because it was there Saturday. And Saturday, I said, was good, so maybe that's helping, but there's people, I can tell you what, I had a friend that quit golf because some of the golf people would come into the pro shop and they wouldn't put a mask on. So he quit. And the reason he did that was because his wife has diabetes. He's afraid he'd bring it home. So how do you manage and deal with this?
And it's probably just a minimum amount of people, but it's those bad
That's true.
apples that spoil the,
That's true, but if you can warn one, everybody knows it right away. That's all, but there ought to be something they can do without going to the board. It's got to be something. It just makes no sense to me. So I don't know where it's going to end up, but and I don't want to be the guy that has to warn people, but when I see them walking down the middle of that aisle in the pickleball, I tell them, put your mask on, put your mask on.
It'd
A
be
lot of
nice
times
if
they take it off to take a drink, which is okay, then they put it right back on, so that's okay. But a lot of times they'll sit there for a while and people walk by and I say, you need to put your mask on, Most of them will do it.
It'd be nice if we had more self-policing, I suppose, if we could police ourselves
Yeah,
but it's too
Anyway,
Pollyanna, it ain't gonna happen.
that's a conversation that we have, so we're trying to figure out how, do we want to do it or should we do it? Or I think we should have some ability, at least at a manager's level, to warn people or maybe discipline at least a little bit.
On Friday morning, we had an incident at the pickleball courts where a guy in that center aisle would not wear the masks, and several people went by and mentioned to him, and a guy that has done this before.
Oh, is that right?
And he just absolutely refused. He argued with him, and then when he started walking out, I confronted him, and he started trying to convince me that masks were useless. So it's just not going to work trying to influence him by just talking to him.
Yeah.
There's
Most
got to be
people
some
do.
more teeth.
Yeah.
I have a question, Stacy. Going before the board is when they are prohibited from all amenities, is that not? Well, couldn't some different procedure be implemented for just the one amenity where they are violating rules?
Well, and that's the question that we've asked. So I asked that from a staff's perspective 2 weeks ago. And it was during the transition, it was the last day that John was leaving on that Friday. And then Charles's first day was Monday of last week. So there's probably so many things going on right now on that plate that it hasn't been addressed yet. We put it on the agenda last week, or 2 weeks ago when we met, in order to make sure that, what ideas do you guys have? I like the signage, and if the signage on every bench is helping, then you know what? Paper's not that expensive and neither is ink, and we can laminate all day long and twice on Sunday. So, we're happy to put up as many signs as it gets people. Here's the biggest thing we find is that the people who follow the rules, they're gonna follow the rules. The people who aren't, they're gonna do it at the top of their lungs. So there has to be some way, and there has to be a way, Calvin, for us to be able to say, you're violating the rules at pickleball, therefore you're going to be suspended. And I don't know that you can call it suspension of privileges. You're not going to be allowed to play, or I don't know the answer. That's why I've kind of sought that guidance and hoping to see what you guys have as well.
I had a thought about pickleball. If somebody's violating the rules, this one guy you're talking about, you can't play pickleball by yourself. Right? So why didn't everybody just, nobody's gonna play it? Good luck finding a partner.
Actually, you got a ball machine there, you can play with a
He
machine.
could play by himself then.
But no, that's a good point, but a lot of those guys have friends and they don't play with them anyway, that's,
Yeah.
so,
In this particular case, we talked to the people he had been playing with, and they agreed that they didn't like him not wearing a mask. So I suggested, well, why do you let him play with you then? And they didn't have an answer.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, all over the United States and probably the world, there are some people that just say, so refuse, you know? And the police, when if they go into Walmart now, Walmart can call them and they can take them out and they can, you know, get out of the building, so. But I don't think we want to do that with the police here, that's beyond. We ought to be able to say, you can't play pickleball for 2 weeks, or you can't play tennis for 2 weeks, or you can't do this, you know? And when they try to reserve a court, they don't get one.
Well, we had an instance here on Saturday, 370 people, and the guys from the Arkansas Bow Hunters were kind of walking around, and they told a guy that was probably 30 years old, you need to wear a mask. Everybody's wearing a mask. And he says, I have a medical issue and I'm not wearing a mask. Maybe he did, but I didn't see it. And the guy from Arkansas Bow Hunter says, well, what's your issue? Well, he can't ask that question. That's against HIPAA. You can't ask that question. So there was 370 people there. One guy refused to wear a mask, that probably because he just, he's probably the one that posted memes on Facebook. So there's nothing you can do.
I don't know, but
You're supposed to have an idea.
I mean, this is a restaurant. Before the governor made it a mandate, there was nothing they could do in a restaurant to keep somebody.
Yeah.
Well, it's a private business, they can say.
Okay, speak in the microphone.
Yeah, it is difficult. I know at the tennis center, however, we've got a lot of peer pressure that goes on there, which is fantastic. But in my opinion, I think there has got to be a way where we can document and have ready in the signage stating, if you do not follow COVID policy, we'll suspend your privileges for X amount of time. And just make it more visible that way. I know when COVID first came onto the scene at the tennis center, they told us, look, you either follow the policy or we're shutting it down. Well, that was enough for a lot of us to, really take notice and be very careful and cautious. And so certainly, even maybe through signage and just implying that we will do that, perhaps that would allow us to, have a little more leverage from that perspective, even though we do have our hall monitors as well, so to speak. But it's a very difficult line to balance, right? And there's no perfect solution, but I think if we just even hint out there to say we're watching and we're concerned, and my goodness, the village population, we've got to be careful with our at-risk population.
But, the pickleball was shut down for, 2 or 3 weeks, a month, something?
46 days.
46 days because people were not social distancing. And so now Greg Allen, I think probably minimum once a week, if not twice a week, reminds everybody through email and everything else, and when he's walking, and everybody else is doing the same thing to do. And it's a lot better. The problem with the pickleball court, and I've seen this myself, is that people drive by, they'll see 2 people standing together in the walkway and saying, uh-oh, they're violating it. They're just driving by.
Right.
Well, we also have couples, that play with each other, and they don't need to be, just like golf. You got a father and son that are winning the same cart, and people see them, they complain. Well, so that goes viral, through next door or wherever, emails and stuff like that. But you still have people that just will not wear a mask, so those are the ones that I have to worry about, and getting other people infected or infected themselves, somehow we should have some means of discipline there, I guess, I'm just that kind of guy.
I think Joe had a comment.
What's that?
I think Joe had a comment.
Well, we don't think we can just put up signs because we decide we want to. We would have to have some kind of authority somewhere to back that up.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what I can do to get that in front of people. How do we get that in front of people to get something approved once you decide what you think it should be?
Yeah, so
Typically, kind of the process is the board member who sits on the committee kind of hears what's going on and what we're looking for, and then they're able to add that to under current discussion guidelines to a work session.
And
Say,
that
this is a
comes
challenge.
tomorrow.
Yeah, so this is a challenge, you know, at the work session tomorrow, as a board member, when I think you go around and they have board member comments and say, okay, this is a challenge that we discussed at the recreation committee that the staff is facing. And that's kind of how the movement normally works.
All right, well, I think we beat that to death.
That would be awesome.
We didn't get to any conclusions, but hopefully we can get something done. 2020 event ideas?
Yeah, so at the end of the July meeting, you guys were gonna go back and rack your brains and come up with some physically distanced phase 2 events that you wanted to see us try to implement for 2020, as well as the first 2 quarters into 2021. So our event planning for first and second quarter of 2021 next year will utilize phase 2 guidelines. And if we come out of it before the end of the second quarter, then yay for us. But we want to make sure we'll have a lot of outdoor events, a lot of socially distanced events. We're already looking at our holiday hangover hike, which is the first Saturday after January 1st. We had 70 plus people come out for that event last year. You know, so how do we do that in terms of social distance? How do we do that in terms of being outside, which is always the first alternative, the best alternative in terms of COVID, since it is spread through contact. So you guys are gonna bring me back ideas. So I'm here I have a whole notepad, it's all blank, and I'm ready.
Well, I have to take an F on that assignment for right now.
Okay, I wasn't officially on the committee
Okay.
yet, so I am down too.
Yeah, I think we all.
So how about a brainstorming session? Just let's, if we can take 5 minutes.
Sure.
And they don't have to be specific, you don't have to give me the date and the time, but tell me some events that your friends, that you guys think that we can do socially distant, and Dawn's gonna start us off.
Okay, well, we did this a few years ago, and I think it sold out when we did it. And now that you're doing some more kayaking things, the kayak fishing clinic.
Okay?
Because, I mean, we had 2 of those, and I think they both sold out.
Okay?
Hey, I was first, somebody could be
Could
that.
I say, we really need to start including like stuff on Saturdays, not just during the week, because like my husband works from home.
Yeah.
And so he sees it all the time. He's like, oh, I'd love to do that. Oh, it's Tuesday at 10.
Okay.
Well, that's gone.
Yeah, because I never get to go to those things either, I'm always at work.
Yeah,
So Saturday events, that's good.
I thought
Okay.
that. What about some kind of scavenger hunt that would include doing something at each of our recreation?
Okay? So a scavenger hunt incorporating the rec amenities.
Have we done a geocaching event here in the village before?
It's been a long time ago. Yeah, geocache. Now, when you say geocache, that's typically when you take something and leave something. You're talking about a true geocache event.
Sure.
Okay?
Now, they had, like, the first year I was here, and I didn't have time to participate in it, but at the Balboa Pavilion, they had a fishing garage sale. You remember that?
So a man's garage sale.
Where people could use a spot and bring
Yeah.
their goods. And,
We had planned to do that this year, but COVID kind of
Okay?
messed that up.
So,
As a matter of fact, we had Balboa Pavilion scheduled and had to cancel it, but that's a good idea.
so how about an outdoor recreation rummage sale?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it could be fishing or hunting or something like that. Okay.
And how do you control the safe distancing? People can only enter the pavilion so many.
Yeah, so you could do it one way in and out, you could set your booth up and then it'll just allow people to come in where they would walk by each of the booths if you went by. Yeah. And technically, whatever idea you throw out, Terry's gonna figure out how to socially distance it. That's Terry's job to figure out how to physically distance it. But yeah, I mean,
I don't know how many people have bicycle, go on a bicycle, you know, not a race, but just going around the village, you know, kind of like walking trails, you know, like Cooper's, you know, up here, you know.
we've probably gotten more requests for rental bikes this year than we've had in the last 9 years. But I guarantee you, in a 3-week period, I probably had 7 phone calls wanting to know where they could rent bikes.
Do we want to think about adding that to capital? Maybe we need to purchase a couple of items.
Well, the only thing is they don't reach the level of capital, so you can make sure we just need to budget them in operations. But
Doesn't
yeah,
have any buy, what kind of buy?
yeah.
Do people that ask about bikes, are they so new that they don't realize the terrain?
Most of the people are typically in the West End, they're calling DeSoto Marina. So they're staying in the timeshares in that area, and they're looking for a bike rental place. And a lot of cities are doing the bike rentals, and there's a big trail system right there with the nature trail, the spillway trail, the waypoint trail, the multipurpose trail, and now the recreation trail. You know, there's a lot of trails right there, and they all allow bikes except for one. So, you know, rentals at DeSoto Marina for bicycles, maybe something we want to look at for operations there for 2021. But then also incorporating maybe some bike tours, or when we rent the bike, similar to what we're doing with kayak tours, including information on the trails that they can ride around DeSoto Marina that would do the bike. So you're generating some revenue and some use of your trails from that. Music? Are you guys tired of music? You still want music?
Oh, I tell you, I don't even know that I can sing anymore, you know?
Okay.
It's just, the groups, we're not singing solos. The only thing I've sung is a couple of funerals. I mean, it's terrible. It really is. The groups can't rehearse. We can't because we can't.
Yeah, you
We can't, you know? Voices Rising, my smaller group that I belong to, is trying to be positive that we might be able to have small quartets or something that would, if somebody was having a small event, and we might be able to do 20 minutes, but we can't even figure out how we're going to rehearse. So I don't know. And the band, well, you know about the big band. I mean, we so wanted to do that event in September, but we can't rehearse.
How about solo musicians like our Rock Porch?
I think those are working real well.
Okay.
People really enjoyed the August 1st, we were there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was very, very enjoyable. Everybody was saying how nice it was to be able to get out and still safe distance. It was lovely weather.
Okay.
And we have Halloween coming, I'm just bringing it up as a event that maybe we could build something around that.
Well, see, we have Fall Festival scheduled on Halloween this year. And we're still looking to have that event if we can figure out how to physically distance it.
Well, and to sanitize, like the climbing wall, or if you're gonna do that, all that stuff has to be sanitized.
No, just the hands do. You don't have to sanitize the wall between every use. You just have to sanitize the hands of the person before they go up and when they come down, kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's some challenges there. Terry's working on it.
There you go, Terry.
Sort of the same, but sort of different. The community fair has been rescheduled, and I was talking to Debbie because of Symphony Guild, and she's amazed at how many of the groups are actually saying, yeah, we're going to give this a try. Is there any room for recreation to do anything at the community fair? That's more in the marketing ourselves than in the holding events. Sort
Well,
of.
I mean, we hold the community fair. So
Yes, but market ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
or
Well,
make
the
sure
community
that.
fair is typically for clubs, churches, organizations, and leagues who
I
are looking
agree.
for new volunteers.
I agree.
I'm not really looking for new volunteers in those, but we can certainly have information and talk about recreation. in terms of that event. Plus, we're looking to combine that as part of the 50th anniversary celebration weekend.
It is gonna happen.
And have the community fair, like in the porte cochere, and so we take away that indoor venue, put it outdoors, which makes it much more easily to do. We're combining it with the arts in the village, the last green market of the year, and we're having live music. So we're hoping to really create a much larger event from that. And we may learn that that's a good way to have that community fair and put that on the list for 2021.
I had a thought, what about a car show? You drive around the village on Saturday, you're driving down DeSoto, and there's all kinds of classic cars that people have in their garage and up here where people come, you know.
So Mark, that's a great idea. It takes about 150 man hours at least. We've had one before. I'm happy to make you chair of the Hot Springs Village Car Show, and when you get that proposal ready, I'll put that into the list.
You can go to
There's some
the,
car shows around here.
Yeah?
Ponce Leon Center parking lot this Saturday from 9 to 12.
Oh, that's right, the Boys and Girls Club, isn't it?
Club.
The Boys and Girls Club is putting on a car show this Saturday.
Good.
I saw that as a fundraiser, so yeah. But I'll add car shows to the list, and I'm gonna put Mark's name next to it as organized.
I have a 2014 Chevy pickup, but what do you think?
I got it 99 dollars, so count.
Along the idea of cars, I've been investigating car rallies. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with car rallies, but the particular type I'm talking about are gimmick rallies, not race rallies.
Okay,
And these are testing participants' ability to follow directions absolutely. And they're very scientifically put on. There's a very strong club in Chicago that we can borrow some of their ideas and general rules and things like that. But to put on one of these, like you said, 150 hours or more, to put on an event, that would be minimum. And so I
but it
would
can be easily socially distant. Having people arrive at a certain time and a certain thing, and so, you know.
And you
Yeah.
start them at 5-minute intervals on the rally
That's
itself.
right. Okay.
It can be done, and it could be a revenue generator with the entry fee of $20 or $25.
Okay,
So it's possible, but it requires work, and it's going to require a club really to form. And I have no way of knowing how to get car enthusiasts together to form a club on this.
okay. So that's something we could look into.
Right.
Okay.
And then, of course, continuation of the kayaking trips is my theme.
Okay. I'm glad that none of well, I heard that some of my employees didn't stay in their kayaks, but at least they didn't drown, so. Serena?
Two things, kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit. In New Orleans, they have something that's called a poker run,
Okay,
and it's, in New Orleans, on the Gulf Coast it's this way, but we could do something like it. It's usually very expensive boats, and they start in Pensacola, and they run to past Christiane, and when they get there, there's a little something going on, and they get a playing card.
right.
And then they go to, I don't know, Waveland, and they come in the lake in New Orleans, and they come to Madisonville, and they get their card, and they go back out, and they end up in Baton Rouge, and so it's, it's 5, 6, 7 stops, and they get a playing card at each stop, random. They just pull one out of the deck when they get there, and when they get to the end, they present them, and whoever has the best poker hand wins like $10,000, but that's a different,
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you gonna sponsor the prize?
Yeah.
So we've done that similar to cars here, but I can see that you could do it in terms of kayaks, you could do it with boats, you could do it with walkers, you do it on the trails, you could use it as part of your scavenger hunt for recreation amenities. They have to arrive at certain amenities, they pull a card, they make a play from that. So yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It's,
we've done that.
We could do it boats,
So
like you
long.
said, it could be
Every year since
kayaks.
I've been here.
Or it could even be kayaks on every lake, or boats on every lake at a different date, and then at the end, they all present their cards and
Okay.
Oh, and the other thing I wanted to ask, which is really not safe distancing, but we used to have the triathlon, and I know there was some reason that we stopped, but it did bring a lot of visitors to the village, and it was well publicized, and a good activity, what can we possibly do? Who do we need to talk to? Do we need to find other people? What can we possibly do to have that again?
Yeah, so you need to find a producer who'll produce a triathlon in Central Arkansas. That's the challenge. The one guy who produced them in the central and southeast part of the state retired. And there are still triathlon producers in the state, but they are all producing in northwest Arkansas, where they have the greenway and they have the ability to really put on those things. And they have a built-in population who are triathletes. So we've done some research on that. Serena, I'd love anybody who's, whether it's a duathlon or a triathlon or something that we could really showcase Hot Springs Village. I'd love to find another producer to come out here. We have the volunteers for it and we have the route already for it. We just have to find a producer for it.
What would it take for us to be the producer?
I think we costed it out, and I think the equipment itself is somewhere in that $7,000 to $10,000 range.
Per year or just a purchase?
No, it's an initial investment it's the timing system.
Yeah.
So it's the electronic timing system where you can track them all individually, and that's where your expense is. After that, it's just volunteers and staff.
That seems pretty reasonable.
So, yeah.
I had a suggestion. I was involved in Senior Olympics for a lot of years. Do we do anything like that here?
Yeah, so we met with the Arkansas executive director of Arkansas Senior Olympics. Was it last week?
Friday.
Yeah, okay, so on Friday we met with the executive director and of course, under current conditions, not willing to host in 2020. And even in 2021, looking to do maybe a couple of them, just because we want to see what it looks like, what kind of numbers they bring in. But one of the discussion points was maybe in 2022, hosting all of the Arkansas Senior Olympics.
With an archery range.
With an archery range.
Yeah.
And then there's another group, Nikki Choice is actually, Nikki and Diane. Nikki and Diane presented at the events meeting, Penny, you were there, it's probably been, 2-3 months ago now. Similar to the Senior Olympics, but these would be geared really towards Hot Springs Village. And they would include things that aren't just competition in terms of sports, but checkers and have something in the spring and something in the fall where you had some competitions and medals and awarding. And Nikki and Diane have a meeting with Terry on the 18th to expand upon that and that ideas. And a lot of that could be done socially distanced. Some of it would not be able to be done socially distanced. So we'd have to just kind of pick and choose until we get out of phase 2. Well, I appreciate that. That was actually 15 minutes, but it's a good brainstorming ideas. Look, I wrote them all down. But it gives the events team, which Terry leads, kind of some ideas as we begin event planning. We normally have our calendar prepared by October. And so, we wanted to look at what ideas do you guys have, and then ideas that we have as well. Yes, ma'am?
I have one more. Renaissance festivals are very popular, and in many states, they already own property. We attend the one in Texas, and God, they've got to be closer to 50th year now, and they own all of that property. But I noticed the one that's here moves around its dates, and they just kind of try to get some space in town somewhere. It seems that the property we have up on the mountain, the Phoenix Drive, you said it's 35 acres.
Yeah.
That would be a big draw to have people come from maybe 100 miles around, if not more. I mean, we drive to Houston every year, but, and begin to host the Renaissance Fair here, and then we could add to that, and we would be charging rental on that property, and we would be charging people to come into Kayak Park.
Okay.
So it would be a moneymaker.
Okay.
Are you talking about the Hot Springs Renaissance Festival?
Yeah, but it's not there necessarily every year. It kind of bops around, like it's here, and then it's in Arkadelphia, and then it's someplace else. We could have more of a permanent home for it. we could associate the village with the Renaissance Fair
Okay.
and keep the village in people's minds. They would come and see it and tour and think they might want to buy a house here and we'd make money doing it, so.
So just because we're leaving the meeting doesn't mean the ideas have to stop. So if you think of things, send me an email, and just kind of help us as we begin to develop. And again, you know, we meet the first and third Wednesday of every month at 1 o'clock. We've been mostly meeting by Zoom because we're all over the place and that's easier for us to sit in our office and do that. So if you guys have an interest in sitting in on some of those meetings to begin talking about events, if you'll let me know, then I'll get you guys added to that invitation list. All right, thank you.
All right, I think we're done. I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Everybody say aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great meeting.